Hey y'all, welcome to Ep.3 of the What Is That in Your Hand podcast. I'm Colby Nelson. So right now I'm taking a 3-hour drive to Kansas City from Wichita, where I live, to have an appointment at KU Medical Center with the surgeon because I have a piece of something in my cheek, and it's literally like in the skin of my cheek. So they don't know what it is, and the surgeon here in Wichita referred me to another surgeon in Wichita, and neither of them felt comfortable doing the surgery. They ran all these tests and stuff, but they couldn't figure out what it was. So this surgeon in Kansas City is probably going to be able to cut me open and see what is going on and get it out, whatever it is, because it causes me bad headaches and stuff. But anyway, if you could pray for me that everything goes well with it, I would appreciate that. I'm not getting the surgery done today. This is just a consultation, but I have to go in person, so I'll have to go back probably in a month or two. But anyway, since I'm driving 3 hours, I figured I might as well make a podcast episode. I told you guys that I was going to share my testimony, so figured I'd just take the time to do that. So I guess we'll just jump right into it. So let's see, I was born in Wichita. I have two biological brothers, and a half sister. And both my parents were addicted to drugs, and they split up because they were it was kind of a toxic relationship. They loved each other, but there was they're fighting a lot, not like physical fighting, I don't think, but they split up, and then my mom got with this other guy. They didn't officially divorce, but she got with this other guy who got her addicted to even harder drugs than she was already on. And they had another kid. And then we all got put in the foster system because somebody reported what was going on in the home. There was a lot of bad things going on with that guy. I guess you'd call him my stepdad. And so we got put in foster care. I was 3 years old at the time when we got put in, and shortly after we got put in foster care, my mom passed away from an overdose. And my dad, he couldn't take us because he wouldn't stay off the drugs. So we were in foster care. We went through a few different foster homes because we were pretty emotionally and mentally messed up from the things that we saw and went through already that early in life, and we were a lot to handle, so we got moved around 3 times, and the first few foster homes were just not good at all. And then we went to this one with this lady, and her name was Dolly, and she was awesome. She really took good care of us, and she showed us love. And from there, that was our longest foster home. From there, our caseworker ended up adopting us, and he was a single man with no kids of his own. And so we moved in with him. He ended up adopting another kid. And my biological brothers are Bryce and Alex, and I'm the youngest of the 3. But he adopted another kid, and he was the oldest. He was me and Bryce were about 1.5 years apart, and then Alex is a couple years older than Bryce, so 3.5, 4 years older than me. And then the adopted kid, his name's Caleb, and he was 2 or 3 years older than Alex. So it was really good, though. We had issues, but he was doing his best, and he showed us love, and he was taking us to church, and things were actually pretty good. But then when I was say 8. So we got adopted when I was 6. When I was 8, he got a new job, and so we moved into a suburb, Andover, and lived in a really nice house, and we were really blessed. But he was desperate for love because he was 45 years old, and he was single. He'd never been with a woman, and he just started dating on this Christian dating site, and the first woman he dated, he just like instantly fell in love with. And so like she had 2 kids of her own, and they got married in like less than a year. And all of a sudden these 2 kids, like I had to share all my stuff with them, and they were practically strangers. So she was really nice when they were dating before they got married, but when she moved in, the whole dynamic just changed. Things got really strict. I was always grounded. Like I it didn't take much. Like if I said one little thing, I'd be grounded for a month. We had to follow really strict rules. I wasn't allowed to have friends, really. Only friends from church, and I only really got to hang out with them like after church. That's the only time I got out of the house. Other than that, I was just always at home, or I only got to leave to go to school or church. And I didn't have any internet access. I was extremely sheltered. So when things started getting abusive, I thought that it was just normal, but it wasn't, because it's like if we talked back one little thing, they would quote unquote restrain us and pin us on the ground and make it to where we couldn't breathe and stuff, or they'd make us do extreme strenuous exercises. There were so many times where my stepmom would make me running back and forth across the field until I got sick, and then make me keep going. Or they would a lot of times make us be like, okay, you have to do 50 push-ups, and you have to do them back to back without stopping. If you drop a knee, then you have to start all the way over. Or another big thing they would do is they would like take all our stuff out of our room, and so I would get grounded for my all my privileges, because having a bed and having clothes to wear in my closet, that's a privilege. So they took all that away, and I would just be sleeping on the floor with a blanket and a pillow. Thankfully, they at least gave me that. And I'd have to check in my clothes every night when I would shower, and they'd give me whatever they wanted, because I didn't have the privilege to pick what I wanted to wear. So they would give me the crappiest hand-me-downs from my older brothers that they could find, and that's what I would wear to school. Or they would ground us to the kitchen table. I was grounded to the kitchen table for an entire summer. And when you were grounded to the kitchen table, you'd have to sit there and copy the dictionary word for word, and they would check it. So if I missed a word out of the dictionary that I was copying, I would have to like completely start over. They'd be like assign me 50 pages at a time. It just never ended. It was just insane. It was like, it was more mental than physical, but there was some physical abuse too, for sure. And this went on for about 3 years, and then Bryce ended up, he finally got sick of it, and they were trying to physically abuse him, and he started like fighting back instead of just like letting them do it, because he was big enough to fight back at this point, because he was 13 or 14 years old. He was growing, he was getting bigger. And then Thanksgiving one day, we were supposed to go to my stepmom's parents' house, and Bryce didn't want to go, so he was refusing. And my adopted dad went into his room and was like, you have to go. And he's like, no, I'll just run away. And my adopted dad was like, okay, if you step outside that door, I'm going to have the police put you in foster care, because you're not letting me be the parent. And my brother literally just walked out the door and sat on the steps, and he got put in foster care for it. He didn't even run away. And so that kind of sucked. And then I didn't really see him much for a while. And then next thing I know, all the stuff around the house just starts getting broken. Like I said, we lived in a really nice house. We had a lot of nice things because my adopted dad had a really good paying job. And it's just like TVs, video game consoles, DVDs, all kind of discs. Let's see, tablets, damage to the cars. Somebody scratched the hood of my stepmom's car with a screwdriver. Somebody took a hammer and like smashed in the GPS system in my adopted dad's van, which I know that was expensive because cars didn't have touchscreen GPSs really like that. It was like a brand new thing. Just all this stuff just kept getting broken, and every time it would happen, they would call the police, and the police would come out, and I would get blamed for it. But I wasn't doing anything. I didn't do anything. I was just a sheltered kid. I didn't know any better. I didn't even, I would never think to do something like that. I had no reason to do that. And they just kept blaming me, and I kept denying it. And then finally, the police came because somebody had slashed all the backs of the seats in my stepmom's car. And the cop took me into his car in the front seat, and he was like, because I at this point I was practically begging to get put in foster care because I was so sick of getting blamed for it, and I didn't understand why this was happening to me, and it was just overwhelming, and I was so sick of living there and being part of that family that I was begging them to put me in foster care. So the cop was finally just like, look, if you just admit that you did it, then I'll put you in foster care. He's like, I know you did it because we had a camera in the garage that showed someone wearing red shorts and a black t-shirt. But I had showered before the cops got there, so when the incident happened, at the time of the incident, I wasn't even wearing red shorts and a black shirt. And the fact that he said someone, it's like, someone, so you could see their clothes, but you couldn't see their face. Did you really need obviously he was lying. I forgot to mention who it actually was that caused the damage, because you guys would probably be wondering that. A year after the situation, my adopted brother one day was hanging out with me, and he was like, bro, did you ever figure out who that was? Was it really you? You can just be honest. It's already over. You might as well just tell the truth. And I was like, no, it wasn't me. He was like, well, what if it was our stepmom, bro? What if she was just really trying to get rid of us so that way she could have our dad and all that money and stability for her and her kids? And I was like, dang. That's it. I wondered the whole time, and I thought I was crazy because they sent Alex into my room to ask me if maybe I had split personalities and I was blacking out and I didn't remember it. And I knew that it was her because when he asked me that, I instantly had a flashback to when she woke me up. I was in trouble, and she woke me up and she told me, she said, okay, go eat breakfast and then take a shower, and then you're gonna have your manual labor and chores that you have to do for the day. So I was eating breakfast, and she leaves the kitchen, and her bedroom's connected to the garage, right? And then she comes back in there, and she's like, what'd you do to my car? Why'd you scratch my car? I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've been sitting here eating breakfast. And me and her were the only two people that were home. So it just clicked. And it's just crazy because at that time, I didn't even think about the possibility that a parent and a grown adult could do something that evil to a child. But it is what it is. But yeah, that's what happened to all the damage. It was her. She was doing it herself and blaming it on me to get rid of me. Since he said that if I admitted to it, I'd get put in foster care, I just said, fine, I did it. Take me out of here, And they did. And so I went to juvie for about 2 weeks. And I remember being in juvie, and I was so happy. I loved being in juvie at that point, because being in juvie and being locked up was better than being at home. I was fed good, because at home I would be grounded and they would give me butter sandwiches. So I was being fed good. I slept good. They even had like you could earn points with good behavior to be able to play PlayStation. So I was cool. Like, I could even get seconds. I could use my points to buy seconds at meals. And like, by the time I got out of there after 2 weeks, my clothes didn't fit me anymore, because me not eating enough and then practically starving me, it was stunting my growth. So when I got out of there, my clothes didn't even fit anymore, and my foster care worker had to buy me all new clothes. And then from there, I went to this small little town called Moran, Kansas. You could walk from one side of town to the other in less than 5 minutes. And I was so happy there at first. Like, I really was just happy to be free. Like, because I could walk around town. I could go hang out with friends. I was really enjoying school, because before that, I couldn't even enjoy school, because I couldn't really even make friends, and I was making friends. And I was very socially awkward because I was so sheltered. I didn't know how to interact with people and stuff. And I remember I made this one friend. His name was Brandon, and he was like a rocker. He played guitar and like had the long hair and wore the skinny jeans, which is weird for being a little tiny hick country town. But he really helped me out, and just helped me learn social skills and stuff. And it was awesome. And then there was another foster kid there, and he was kind of trouble. And since I was free, like, I was down to try anything. I didn't really care. So I started smoking cigarettes and stuff, and I started like doing whatever I wanted, just being rebellious, and waking up in the morning and leaving and doing whatever I wanted, and coming home just to sleep or to eat. So they ended up kicking me out. And the day I got kicked out of there to go to a new foster home, Alex, my oldest biological brother, he showed up with my caseworker, because apparently he got put in foster care too, because like Bryce, he decided to defend himself. And they were really physically abusing him. They threw him on the ground and everything, and he wasn't really trying to do all that. And like, my stepmom spreaded his legs and put her foot in his crotch, and was like, "We're calling the police, and if you make any noise or move, I'm going to continue to press my foot harder into your crotch." And the cops got there and saw that she was doing that, and still blamed him, and he got put in foster. So at this point, she got what she wanted, because looking back, like, it's clear to see that they were always harder on me, Bryce and Alex, and we were the ones that were always in trouble. But her kids always like had their favor, so they were always spoiled rotten, and we were always in trouble. And this whole situation was caused because of us being treated differently. And looking back, it's just clear to see that she didn't want us there. She was trying to get rid of us because she was taking advantage of our adopted dad. And he just let it happen. He just let everything change. He let her take control of our family and ruin it. But honestly, I can say that since then, when I became a Christian and I started my relationship with Jesus, he's helped me to forgive them. I do forgive them, because honestly, if things wouldn't have happened the way that they did, my life would be different. I don't know how my life would be right now. And so that's my perspective when I think about my past. I wouldn't change anything, because I love my life now. I love my relationship with God. I love how much he's blessed me. So with that, I'm able to say, you know what? They were lost. They did things because, just like me, they're sinners, and we're all sinners. And all I can do is forgive them and pray that God will give them the ability to repent and come to Him. And that's all it is. It's between them and God. You know, the Bible says, um, the Lord is the one who justifies and condemns. He's the judge. I'm not the judge. So I know that one day, if she doesn't admit what happened, and like, she's gonna face God, and the truth is gonna be known. So I have peace with that. Thank God, because for the longest time I did not have peace with it, but now I do, because I know that God is good and God is just and righteous, and He's gonna make it right. And he got put in foster care. So he went to a different foster home than I did, but I went to another one in Hayesville, and it started off pretty good. I got into wrestling at the school, and I loved it. And it didn't end up working out, though, because they had a rule on the wrestling team: if you got 3 detentions, you were off the team. And I got 2 detentions, which were reasonable, that I kind of deserved, honestly. But the third one, I just forgot to bring a pencil to class, and I got a detention for it. And I even told the teacher, I was like, look, like, give me one more chance, because I don't want to get kicked off the wrestling team for not having a pencil. And she didn't care. And so I went to practice, like, that next day, and the assistant coach was there, and I told him what happened, and I gave him my stuff, and I was beating myself up really bad, because I was like, the rules are the rules, you know, like, I don't even want to face this, I just want to give you my stuff and go. And he's like, well, why don't you just wait, and then you can talk to coach when he gets here, he'll be here in a little bit. And I didn't wait, because I was just so ashamed of myself. But I think that I still struggle with that kind of thing, because I think it's just the way that my adopted parents treated me, to where it's like, if I do something wrong, even if it's small, it's like I'm not worthy, and I should be ashamed of myself. So I just quit. But if I wouldn't have done that, I would have just stayed and talked to him. I probably could have stayed in wrestling, but I didn't. And then when I quit the wrestling team, like, that just it kind of really messed me up, because I started being angry all the time, and wrestling was a good outlet for me to get that aggression out and stuff. Especially as a teenage boy, I was 14 years old. I had all that testosterone, and so I started fighting with the other foster kids in the foster home and stuff, and then they kicked me out. And then the next foster home was the one where Alex was at, and I just didn't really even care anymore. I just started doing whatever I wanted, because I realized that if I just did whatever I wanted to do and didn't follow any rules, the worst they would do is kick me out and move me to a new place. So that's what I just kept doing, and kept running away and stuff, and I would get in fights, and foster home to foster home to foster home. And then ended up going to group homes, because I couldn't find me foster homes anymore, get kicked out of group homes, for the same reasons, fighting and running away. And then it was just like, I just kept going down this path, and I was just so unhappy, and I struggled really bad with my mental health. I was hurting myself a lot. I had a few suicide attempts, and so along with the group homes, I had to go to mental hospitals. It was just all bad. And then finally, when I was 16, every 6 months, I think, we had to do we had a court date with the foster care lawyer, the foster care lawyer and the foster care judge. It was like a foster care court date, basically, to where they, like, have us go in there and check in and everything. And so I did that, and the judge looked at my paperwork and saw that I kept catching misdemeanor charges for fighting. and like disorderly conduct and stuff. And she said, "You're not behaving, so I'm gonna go ahead and send you to juvenile prison for a year, but 8 months with good time." And I went in there, and I got in a fight literally every single month, sometimes twice a month. And like the day before I was supposed to get released, I went to court, and the judge was like, "Yeah, I see that you haven't changed at all, so we're going to go ahead and give you another year or another 8 months if you're good." And I was so disappointed. But that second sentence, I only got in one fight, and I didn't start it. So I got out of there and then went to another foster home, and that one was really chill. Like, he kind of gave me a lot of freedom. I just had to go to school. I got a job working at Home Depot, being a cart pusher, and it was good. And he was just like, as long as you're going to school and getting good grades and you're working so you can make your own money, like, I'll just leave you alone. You can do whatever you want to do. And if you ever need to go anywhere, like, I'll provide you transportation, stuff like that. He was like, "You're like a year and a half away from being an adult. I think that you need to learn how to be more independent." So it was going good for a while, but then I got into smoking weed pretty heavy, and then stopped going to school, and then I ended up quitting my job, and then he kicked me out. And then my childhood best friend from church, his parents ended up taking me in, and they really cared about me, and they really wanted to help me, but I wouldn't let them, because anytime somebody tried to love me, I wouldn't allow them, because I didn't believe that I was worthy of being loved. So like, the more people tried to love me, the more bad I would get, like, mentally. I would get really depressed, and I was just so hard on myself. And yeah, so that ended up not working out. But they were the only placement I went to throughout my time in foster care that they didn't kick me out. Like, I tried to get them to kick me out, and no matter what I did, they were trying to love me unconditionally, and I was putting them through hell. But eventually I just got so sick of doing that to them that I asked my foster care worker to move me out and put me in a new place, so she did. And then from there, just kind of moved a couple times from getting kicked out again. And then I ended up in the independent living program in Topeka, which that's where they like gave me my own apartment and provided me with groceries and stuff. Like, it was like an apartment, but I had like a roommate, and so like we had our own rooms and stuff, but we just shared a kitchen, and I had my own bathroom and all that, and that was cool. But they didn't really teach me anything. Like, that was the goal of the program, was to teach you how to be independent and live on your own, so that way when you age out of foster care, you can manage it. And they didn't teach me anything, so I was just there just chilling and goofing off. The first week there, I graduated high school. I was supposed to go for another semester because I was short on credits, but they pretty much just gave me my diploma. I mean, I was close, but they mostly just did that out of sympathy, I think. And at my high school graduation, my oldest adopted brother, Caleb, he showed up like out of nowhere. I'd only seen him like 2 or 3 times throughout my whole time in foster care. And he was like, "Hey, we're going to go to Texas Roadhouse and get something to eat and celebrate you graduating." And he gave me $100. He was like, "Do you have any plans? Like, what's your plan for after you graduate?" I was like, "I have no idea." He's like, "You should join the Army." I was like, I mean, it sounds like it could be a good idea. I mean, I don't know. It's something to do, I guess, sure. He's like, "Okay, you can stay with me until you get enlisted and you deploy." So I aged out of foster care. I moved in with him, and I got a job working at Dillon's while I was waiting for the army. And started smoking weed all the time again, and I wasn't going to be able to join because I couldn't pass a drug test anyway, but I was trying to quit, and I might have, but my brother Alex, he talked me out of it. He was like, "No, bro, you can get college for free because you were a foster kid, and if you go to college, you'll still be able to smoke weed. And I know you like to smoke weed," which I did. So, don't do it. And he's just trying to pressure you into it. He's trying to force you to do stuff you don't really want to do. And he just like got in my head because he never gave me good advice. And so he talked me out of joining. And as soon as I decided not to join, Caleb and his wife, who really didn't like me, they kicked me out. And so I moved back to Wichita and stayed with my brother for a little bit, my brother Bryce. And then I got enrolled to go to college at Butler County Community College in El Dorado. And I went, and this like foster care worker who was also was a foster mom to me when I was like 14. She helped me get an apartment to get set up to go to school. I got a job at McDonald's, which was something. But I only lasted maybe 2 or 3 weeks in college because as soon as I got the Pell Grant, I had never had $1,500 in my pocket before, and it pretty much all ended up being spent on weed. And then in order to support my weed habit, I started selling weed. And a girlfriend that I had in foster care, she ended up moving in with me, and that was a toxic relationship. I ended up getting caught selling weed and got a year on probation, and my girlfriend left me like 2 or 3 times. She would leave me anytime we get in a little petty argument. She'd blow with things extremely out of proportion and then leave me. And the third time she did that, when she left, she stole my rent money, so I didn't have a home anymore, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I ended up moving to Emporia, Kansas, to stay with this dude's family, they were really good people. I ended up staying with them. I didn't even really know the guy that well. He's more of like an acquaintance, but they helped me out, and me and him were just, they smoked weed and stuff, and I was just a dumb kid, and we ended up huffing air duster together, and his dad found out about it and kicked me out and blamed me. And so I got my own apartment at that point because I had a job working at a hotel in the kitchen. It was really part-time, but I got like a tiny little studio apartment for like $300 a month. And when I moved in there, I was just so messed up from that relationship, and I was so depressed that I basically just made just enough money to pay my rent, and that was it. And I would just like work like 5 hours a week, 5-10 hours a week, and then other than that, I would just, and it was like, my apartment was like downstairs, so it was like halfway in the ground, so it was like damp and dark, and it fit the mood. That's for sure. I was super depressed, and I just slept all the time, and I did that for about half a year before my brother finally got my childhood best friend to hit me up, and I moved back to Wichita and stayed with him. They moved to Missouri. I got a job doing surveys for the government, for the CDC, and I met this lady who took me in, and her husband worked for OSHA and had a really good job, and it was a big house, and she tried to be a mother figure for me. And I got off probation, and when I got off probation, I just like went harder and stuff, and I got addicted to cocaine, and then the cops raided her house and blamed her for it when I was out of town. And so yeah, she was like, I'd been thinking about moving to St. Louis where my childhood best friend moved. So she was like, I told them that you moved because they were looking for you. So you should just move. So I did. I moved to get a fresh start. And like right before I moved, me and my ex, the same girl that I was in that toxic relationship with, we got back together. And she moved to St. Louis with me. And I knew I was under investigation still for everything. And I told her that. And I was like, if you can't handle it, then don't stay with me. And she swore, like, if anything happened, if I got arrested, like, she was my ride or die. She was going to be there for me. And then, like, we lived in St. Louis for, like, half a year to a year. And the cops came, and they kicked my door in and arrested me. And sure enough, like, she got all my money. She got all my stuff. And then she ghosted me. And that hurt. But when I went to jail, they transported me at an airplane on the day before Christmas Eve. And then when I got to the jail in Wichita, I was in booking for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve. And I was just broken. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And I remember I was sitting in that cell just thinking, like, this is all I've ever known is institutions and jail and foster care. Like, I've never really been free. And I've tried everything. I've tried money. I've tried drugs. I've tried women. I've tried all these different things that the world has to offer to make me feel whole and complete and fulfilled. And nothing's ever working. So, like, the one thing that I haven't really tried is God. Like, when I was a kid, like I said, I went to church. I knew the Bible, but it was never real for me. And growing up as a teenager and as a young adult, I didn't even want to give God a chance because I didn't want anything to do with the God that my adopted parents said they believed in, because they were just such a bad representation of who God is. I thought God was, like, strict and mean and all these things like they were, because anytime they would abuse us, they were saying that they were being godly parents, but they weren't. So I just finally, like, broke down, and I was like, God, like, you're all I got now. Like, everything has been stripped from me, so I'll give you a chance. Like, I'll have an open mind, and I'll have a, like I was like, God, I'll make you a deal. I'll have an open mind to get to know you for who you really are, if you'll reveal yourself to me that you're real, without, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And, like, that evening, this guy named Paul became my cellmate, and he was a Christian, and he started talking to me about God. And then he left, like, the next day, and after he left, they moved me to a dorm, because that was just like the what do they call it, like the processing unit where they determine where you're going to go. And they put me in a dorm, and as soon as I walked in there, somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I was just wondering, do you need a Bible? I was like, yeah, actually, I do. And he's like, okay, well, we have a Bible study every day for like 2 hours. Since we ain't got nothing better to do, we have it every day before dinner if you want to come. And I was like, yeah. And so I started going to this Bible for a week and just hearing the gospel, hearing these people's stories, and I just saw how much peace they had and how real it was in there, to where it made people be able to manage being in jail and find peace and even joy in the midst of it. And I talked to this guy named Steve Crooks. Yes, his last name, we were in jail and his last name was Crooks. But I talked to him because I could relate with him a lot, because he was a foster kid and stuff too growing up, and he was a lot older than me. And talked to him, and then I went to my bunk and I ended up giving my life to Jesus. And then for 3.5 years I was in jail fighting my case, and in that time I just really spent all that time just getting to know God and reading the Bible, and God just helped me so much through that time. And then finally, God blessed me with time served, and I was looking at up to 10 years in prison, and I got time served. and I got out, and I thought that I would never do anything bad again. I thought, like, I'll never smoke, I'll never drink, I'll never do any of that stuff again. But I got out and I didn't have anywhere to go. I was homeless. I was sleeping behind a Walmart, and I was just struggling. And instead of going to God to cope, like, I ended up, like, drinking every night to go to sleep and smoking weed. And I took a while to get a job. Because it's like, when I didn't have those temptations, I thought when I got out of jail it would be easy, but it wasn't. And so I had too much confidence in myself, so I started doing these things again. But I ended up getting a job, even though I was homeless. And then, even though I had a job, I wasn't really spending my money wisely. So I was going to church. I was at least kind of trying to be close to God, but I was also trying to do what I wanted to do to cope, because that's just what I knew my whole life. And then somebody from my church gave me an old car that they had, so that I had a car to sleep in the winter. And then finally, like, I just was like, I'm so tired of this. I've been out of jail for half a year. I have a job, but I have nowhere to live. I'm struggling. I'm constantly struggling. So I was just like, I'm tired of this. So I saved up and I got an apartment. Then my car broke down. So I started having to ride the bus to work. But at least I had an apartment. And struggled through the winter because I did landscaping. So we missed a lot of work. But I stayed with the company because they were really good to me, and they helped me out in a lot of different ways. And it was a Christian company. But then spring came around and everything, and I started going to this new church called Hope for the Hood, and that was awesome. It's like the church is directed towards, like, people in the hood, obviously. Like the pastor, he's an ex-gang leader. And they just had all kinds of resources. I found out about this Sparrow program, and up until now I'd been kind of like off and on with God. Like, I'd be close to God, and then I'd fall into sin, and then I'd get sick of it, and it's just like I couldn't stay consistent. And so I started going to this Sparrow class at WSU because they came and did a presentation. And it's like a career readiness class where they teach you career skills and teach you, like, what your talents and abilities are, teach you communication skills, how to interview for a job, help me make a resume. And it was just super eye-opening to see all the possibilities of what I could do with my life, even more possibilities than I already thought of. And it ended up me becoming a lot more disciplined and consistent because I really wanted to complete this class. But when I started the class, I was still struggling with smoking weed, and I missed so much class that the teacher had to tell me, like, if you miss one more class, you're not gonna be able to complete it. So that just kind of snapped me out of it, and I really buckled down, and I sought God's help, and He helped me to quit smoking weed and be more consistent. I ended up graduating the Sparrow class, and it inspired me to want to go to college. So now I'm about to go to college to get an accounting degree. And at first the school didn't even accept me, but I had to write a letter to get an exception. And also during that time, God blessed me with new transportation. I got this new car I'm driving in right now. But yeah, so now I'm going to college and everything, but I was struggling financially while I was going through this class, and I got so far behind on my car payments and my car insurance that they took my car from me, which was a blessing in disguise because I was just so busy that, like, yeah, I wasn't smoking weed anymore and I was doing better, but I wasn't really that close to God because I didn't have time for that. I wasn't making time for it. I wasn't really focused. I was just super stressed out all the time and just always so busy. And God really sat me down this last couple weeks, and He's really drawn me so closer to Him. And I feel like I'm finally as close to God as I was when I was in jail, because when I was in jail, I was more free than than I'd ever been in my life. And it was amazing what I was experiencing, that relationship with God, and experiencing His presence every day and just getting to know Him. Like, I'm trying to explain it, but words really can't explain that. It's one of those things where, like, if you know, you know, but you can know. Anybody can know that if you want it. The Bible says that if you draw near to God, He will draw near to you, and when you seek Him with your whole heart, you'll find Him. And so that's what God did the last couple of weeks, is I've just been getting close to Him. I started this podcast that God put on my heart to do a long time ago when I was in jail. I've been out for almost a year and a half. Well, actually, a year and 7 months I've been out now. And, when I got out, the day I got out was my birthday, and that was a gift from God, for sure. But, yep, so that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just living my life for the Lord. He's changed me so much. He's healed me. I'm not depressed anymore. I'm not anxious. I'm not addicted. I'm not angry and bitter. I have joy. I have peace. I have love. And my life is more blessed than it ever has been. And it's just been a complete 180. And it's all because of God. He gets all the glory. Jesus saved me. Jesus saved my life. Because if none of this, if me going to jail and all that stuff didn't happen, I think I might have ended up dead. When I was in jail, my biological dad, I met him as an adult, and he ended up also passing away from an overdose. So, like, God just is using me and my brother Bryce to just break these generational chains, and to bless us. And, you know, the Bible says, like, when we come to God, He'll bless us up to 1,000 generations. And I believe that. Like, God is really changing things in my family. So, yep, that is my testimony. I'm excited for everything God has in store for me. And I just hope that my story can inspire other people. Because that's the whole point. I've had a really, really rough life. But the thing is it's not for nothing. Because if I can share my story and how Jesus saved me, how He changed things for me, how He's given me hope and a future, like, He can do it for anybody. He can do it for you. He can turn things around for you. He can give you life, eternal life with Him, but also life in abundance, the abundant life. He wants us to be able to not just survive, but to thrive, to be able to actually live. And that's what God has done for me, and that's what He wants for you too. But anyway, thank you for listening to my podcast and listening to my story. I hope it helps you. If you could please like and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. And if you know anybody who might be able to relate to my story and that it might help them, please share it to them. Okay? But I will be making another episode here soon. So thanks again, and I'll see you later. Love you guys.